Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another COVID-19 call. My name is Sreenivasan, and we're on lockdown in New York, day number 17. It feels a lot longer than that. Every day, I talk to people around the world in this online global conversation. In the first 16 days, we've had 38 amazing guests and thousands of people from around the world. More than 200,000 people have watched some parts of these shows. We do this because we want to share useful, helpful information that can help us get through these difficult days. On Sunday nights, we've turned it into Positivity Night so that we can all get a little bit of realistic, upbeat positivity. I even put on one of my more upbeat shirts so that I could feel upbeat as we get into this. We're live on multiple platforms, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube, and we'd love for you to go right now onto your platforms and share this with your friends. Hit share, hit retweet, or tag specific people so that they can join us and participate. We're going to have a really interesting, useful conversation, and I know that you will all benefit from what we're going to do today. You'll get a chance to share your comments, and I will bring them up on screen like this. Here's our friend Geeta Narayanan watching from Memphis, and we have Jonathan Borstein, who's always first. Greetings from the East Village. So glad to see you. And Tom is watching from San Jose, California. We're so grateful for everybody who's here. Diana's here from San Francisco, and she's got her Twitter handle in there. Very cool, at Diana Rohini, and she works for the healthcare system at San Mateo County. And we're so grateful to every single healthcare worker, whether they're a nurse, a doctor, or a health aide, an administrator, a communicator. Everybody is making it possible for us to succeed here and survive all that's going on. Eileen is watching from Philly. Thank you. Arlene is watching and tagging her friends. I'd love it when you do that. Just go in there and tag a friend. And Ursula is watching from London, where it is almost past midnight, almost 1 a.m. So thank you for doing that, for being here. Arlene says she's holding her own in Uptown Manhattan. So let me bring in our guest, who's going to be with us for most of the hour, and we'll be taking your questions. And one of the things I've learned doing these is that every time we have an MD on, people get better information than when I'm doing this myself. People have been asking me questions, and you can hear her in the back. So let me bring her out front. Please welcome Dr. Pamela Cantor. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Sree. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I'll give you a proper introduction in just a minute, but I just want to show you all these people from all over the place. Girish is watching in India, and India is under complete lockdown for 21 days. Steve is saying hi to his mom, who's also watching. Isn't that sweet? They're in Philadelphia. I love that. Rose Horowitz is watching, and she's tweeting live. Follow her, Rose Horowitz 31, and she'll be amplifying my talk with well-known psychiatrist, Dr. Pamela Cantor. And Hilda is waving from Hollywood, Florida, and she's given us her Twitter handle. And Tom has already put in a question, which we'll bring to you in a minute. It's just great to see all of you here. Vandana is watching, and she says she loves the new color scheme. You know, that's the more positive color scheme that we have. And Diane is watching from Margate, New Jersey. And Pam, if you've been to any of these places, you can tell us if you have. It'll be nice. And you'll also tell us where you are in just a moment. But I just want to continue to bring people in. She's just tagged. Diane just tagged Kate Byrne, who was a guest on my New York Times read-along, and this community of online folks who are here, who are talking, sharing. We love that. Thank you so much. So let me bring Dr. Cantor on to tell us a little bit more about her work. And Dr. Cantor is the founder of Turnaround for Children, and she is one of the country's leading experts as a child psychiatrist and dealing with teenagers as well. And she is also a visiting scholar at Harvard's Graduate School of Education. And we are just delighted to have you with us, Pam. Thank you so much for being here and for spending your Sunday night. For first, I'll ask the same thing I ask all my guests. How are you? What are you up to? How are you feeling?
I am here in our home in Northwest Connecticut. New York is the place where we live, but we left New York a couple of weeks ago and are just planning to stay up here in a rural little town called New Preston, Connecticut. That's where we are.
And how far is that from the city?
About 2 hours.
And how do you have adequate healthcare nearby, shopping nearby? Talk about that, please.
Oh, yeah. You know, the amazing thing about a small town, and I've actually been in this area, I actually practiced as a doctor here over many years. And in a small town, everybody knows everybody. People know what you need. If I needed groceries delivered, I would call the person who owns the grocery store and tell them that I couldn't come. But most places up here are doing pickups, so you never really get out of your car and you go from one place to the next, and people just put what you need in the car, whether it's drugstore items or groceries. But people really help each other. That's the wonderful thing I've discovered about small town life.
Yes, I understand that. So I'm putting all these comments in, so they're kind of crowding your computer just a little bit, the screen. I should have talked to you about this earlier. If you can get back just a little bit, we might have a little more room and we can see you. There you go. I think that's great.
Better?
Yeah, that's better, and we can still hear you, so that's great. Pradnya says, good evening from Silver Spring outside of DC. And Rose says, New Preston, nice town. It's in Litchfield County. I've been there for some day trips. I lived for years in Weston and now live in Milford. You know all these places, right?
I do indeed.
And Mark is tuning in from Durham, North Carolina. Thank you, Mark, for being here. Mark has his own podcast and does a really good job with that. Daryl's watching from Flushing, New York City. Queens, as you know, Doc, is the epicenter of the New York City epicenter, and some horrifying pictures coming out of what's happening in some of the hospitals. And I know we will get to talk about everything that's happening kind of medical wise, and we'll have some questions also coming in for that. And folks, continue to tag your friends so we can have as many people benefit from Dr. Cantor's wisdom as we spend the next hour or so together. And please do follow her on Twitter. She is on Twitter as Dr. Pamela Cantor. Very easy to find, Dr. Pamela Cantor, and the organization she founded at Turnaround. We're also live on the at Turnaround itself, which is very cool and very nice to see. We're also live on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, and all of this is to bring people together. And maybe we'll start there, Dr. Cantor.
Well, actually, Sree, just let me mention one other thing, and that is Turnaround has an amazing website that is filled with both medical information, but also lots and lots of tools and tips for parents and teachers. It's a website resource that lots and lots of people in different professions that relate to children use as a resource. So it's www.turnaroundusa.org.
Perfect. Thank you. That's great. And we'll add that to the screen right now. So my producers are doing that right now. And there it is, turnaroundusa.org. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, there are no producers. It's just me as we do this. And this is, I know you're used to a higher quality of production here, but we're just doing this because we love bringing people together. And so my question for you to start us off, Doctor, was to talk a little bit about technology and its role through this crisis, how it's bringing people together, how turnaroundusa.org is helping people, how these kinds of conversations are happening. Psychiatrists are doing their appointments via Zoom. If you could just reflect on that a little bit, we'll get started there.
Sure. You know, there are two big purposes that I hear about technology right now. There are many in the education field that have believed for a long time that technology has an important role to play in education broadly. And I think that's true, but I also think technology has taken the easy way out thus far, because it tends to focus very narrowly on subjects, teaching kids in a kind of one-to-one format. But one of the most important things about learning that we know about the neuroscience of learning is that the social bonds that kids make with teachers and with each other, the emotional affective life of kids, is actually what ignites their learning skills, their cognitive skills. So if you take the relationship out of learning, you reduce the learning. So one of the interesting things that I see happening right now with technology that I'm very excited by is the recognition that technology can also become a tool for activity that is generated by the agency of kids. If we look at technology as something where kids are passive and the screen is where the action is, that's not going to be helpful to kids in terms of their learning. When kids drive the use of technology by things they create, things they build, things they want to build, and they engage adults in the process of doing that, one of the things that means is project-based learning. You get the social part of learning, and you get the power of technology as a tool. So for learning itself, I think technology has an important role to play if it builds itself into something that includes the social aspect. But I think you're talking about something else right now. You're talking about the fact that we have to be physically distant from each other in order to be physically safe from the COVID virus. And that is a significant problem, particularly for kids, for whom the social aspects of life and relational aspects of life are literally the fuel for their development. So I'm very interested in some things that are going on now where we use technology for its social purpose, like, for example, advisories that kids are doing online, the use of Zoom to bring classrooms into a technology-based format, but joining people together. The thing that we have to know is that our capacities to cope and surmount the effects of this virus depend almost on a one-to-one basis with the availability of supports and relationships in our lives, wherever they are. And technology has to help us do that while we have to be physically distant from one another.
Thank you. That is such an important point about making sure it's in service of what we're trying to do, right? And that's something that we all have to work with. Let's just see. Paula is watching from Tallahassee. Thank you, Paula, for being here. Paula is part of my improvement team. We do all these events. We take virtual events and make them better. We take physical events, make them virtual, etc. Peggy's watching from Taiwan. Thank you for watching. It's early morning in Taiwan. And we're getting lots of questions here, so I'm just going to bring you one from Tom, who is asking several questions about people wearing masks or scarves when they go outside. He says we're wasting valuable time. Do-it-yourself masks could help flatten the curve. So let's hear your thoughts on masks in general at this time. And I will also point out that some of the recommendations are different in America than they are in other countries. And we have seen that, right? In East Asia, in China, and other places, the mask is the way that they've helped to flatten the curve. And here it's recommended that you don't use a mask, partly because of the shortage for healthcare workers. I went out in a different, not an N95 mask, because I didn't want people to feel like I was using something that a healthcare worker could. So even that kind of the psychology of that was difficult to navigate, Doc.
Yeah, the medical facts are that we should be wearing masks, that right now this virus has diffused into our society to such an extraordinary degree. And the facts about this virus are that it is highly contagious. Anything that transmits through sneezes and coughs that are aerosolized, meaning the virus particles are in the air. So the contagiousness of the virus is profound. Many of us, perhaps in this country, didn't fully believe that when the virus first came to New York. I don't think anybody who is living in New York right now disbelieves the fact of that. So the contagiousness of the virus is a very real thing. And there are many mechanisms. Masks are one. Physical distancing is another. If you're in a high-risk age group, not going out of the house. I mean, these are things we have to do. On the subject of masks, I think we were late to that in understanding that. And then there was this mass buying of masks, and now there is a shortage of masks for the people that are most at risk, either high-risk populations or healthcare workers. But the fact is, you don't have to have an N95 mask to give yourself some protection and some way to protect yourself. So the short answer is people do need to be wearing masks to protect others and to protect themselves right now, because the intensity of infection, certainly in the Northeast right now, is very, very high.
Thank you, Doc. Tom says, wear a mask or scarf masks, just prevent hand-to-mouth and nose touching. And Mark says, we're such a social group, wondering how it'll affect physical exercise and sports. What's going to happen? Have you thought a little bit about that and what's happening in the sports world? Could you share that? Thank you.
Well, the first thing I'd want to share is that physical activity is such an essential part of wellness and stress management. And stress management right now, since none of us knows for how long we're going to be confined, is one of the things that is most challenging. And self-care is one of the best ways to manage stress. Self-care might be the ways in which you figure out how to be physically active during the day, even if you're confined to your apartment. And at least 20 minutes to 30 minutes of physical activity per day is crucial. Self-care can also mean things like meditation. And there are wonderful websites with lots of tools. You don't have to be an expert to begin to meditate. The Mindsight Institute, a wonderful resource, the Garrison Institute. There are many places that you can go to get your intro 101 to meditation, which is a great way to manage stress. So right now, this idea of sports being something we do outside with other people when our kids are playing baseball, it's going to be months before we have that experience again. But wellness can happen inside your living room.
Thank you. What a great answer, and something we should all look at. I have been using an app called Just 6 Weeks that helps you work on your push-ups and sit-ups and things like that, and it inspires you over multiple weeks to use it. Unfortunately, it feels like 6 weeks is not going to be enough in terms of how long this is going to take. And we have lots of...
Sree, I just wanted to mention that on our website, we just posted yesterday a very short post on how you maintain physical and emotional wellness at home. It's like 2 pages long, but it really tells you everything that you need to be doing to take care of yourself right now.
So let's do that. Let's go take a look at that so that we can find it. And let's talk a little bit about the website also. Here
we go.
Yeah, just 1 second. I'm going to just take off all the branding here so we can look at it a little more carefully. And you can kind of walk us through the site as I navigate it here. I'm just going to blow that up so you can see it. So you can tell us here. So it's called turnaroundusa.org, and this is the organization. Tell us a little bit about the organization, and then we'll click through and look at the stuff. Yeah.
Well, Turnaround was actually founded in the wake of another crisis that hit our country, and that was 9/11. And I was a practicing child psychiatrist then, specializing in trauma. And the New York City Department of Education was asking itself, what was the effect of an event like 9/11 going to be on New York City's public school children? We did a very large epidemiologic study, which asked across the city, how have children been affected by this? And one of the really important things we learned is that the most profound effects of 9/11 were not in the 9/11 area of schools. The greatest effects and consequence of that event were in the communities and schools of deepest poverty. And it was that finding, that realization of the effect of adversity on development and learning that caused me to found Turnaround for Children in the first place. But ever since then, what we have been doing is creating tools that would enable any school to become a positive developmental force in a child's life. We work with leaders, teachers, and kids. We're national now, and our website is intended to be just a treasure trove of resources. So when the coronavirus hit, the first thing we did was put out, as part of our podcast series, which is called The 180, we put out a podcast, and it's sort of underneath my name, but anyway, there we go.
Yeah, so may I play a little bit of it just so we can hear it? That'd be kind of fun. So folks, before we do that, just remind everyone what we're doing. That's Dr. Pamela Cantor. I'm Sreenivasan. I'm delighted to have all of you here. This is our Sunday night edition of my daily COVID-19 call. Our hashtag is Sree COVID-19 call. And we're talking to Dr. Pamela Cantor, founder of turnaroundusa.org, Turnaround for Children. And we are going to listen to an excerpt of her podcast. And right now, there's someone in your life who would benefit from hearing her voice and what she is saying. So please tag your friends. Please hit share right now in whatever platform you're in, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. And we'll come to your comments and read them in a few minutes, but please share right now. There's somebody who would absolutely benefit from this, so please do that. I wanted to show Dr. Cantor that we have a greeting here from someone who says he can't sleep in Pakistan, and therefore he is awake and watching us. He says he's in Karachi, 6:23 a.m. I haven't slept, so I can really watch this useful, helpful talk. So thank you, Willie, for watching.
Thank you, Willie.
And thank you to everyone who is sharing, telling us where you're watching from. And Rose continues to tweet and share, and she tweeted a link to the podcast using Rose Horowitz 31. And please share that. That'd be great to get this out to as many people. So right now, you're going to hear an excerpt from a podcast where you will hear Dr. Cantor, and maybe she can set that up and then I will hit play.
Okay. I mean, one of the things that we tried to cover in this podcast, it's sort of the 101 of the science of stress, and that's how it starts. But it gradually moves into these areas of what do children need from adults during a time like this? What are the things that could be most helpful that adults can do? And what are some of the challenges depending on the age of children? Like, for instance, how do you get a 7-year-old to continuously wash their hands and keep themselves physically safe? So we get into some of those kinds of things on the podcast as well.
Terrific. So I'm going to hit play now so we can hear that. We'll listen for a couple of minutes. Is that all right?
Great.
Okay. Here we go. The podcast is called The 180, Keeping Our Children, Ourselves Safe During the Crisis. And she's talking to host Chris Ryback, who's talking to Dr. Pamela Cantor, MD, Turnaround for Children's founder and senior science advisor, about how to address the fear, stress, and disruption caused by the pandemic. Folks, you have some friends who would benefit from this right now. Please share it with them.
I'm Chris Ryback. This is a special edition of the 180 podcast, Coronavirus, Keeping Our Children and Ourselves Safe, with Dr. Pamela Cantor. Pam, thank you for joining me for this special edition on the coronavirus. It's a very unsettling, stressful time for all of us, which is why we thought it'd be a good idea to have this conversation. Fortunately for us, you have expertise that I think will be especially helpful for our listeners. You're a physician, a child psychiatrist who specialized in trauma, and you're the founder of Turnaround for Children, an organization which was actually founded in the wake of September 11th. So you bring years of experience in medicine, helping children, and working with schools on how to cope with the kinds of fears that envelop us during times like this. So during this conversation, I'm hoping you might be able to offer insights and advice on how we can help children and the people who love and care for them weather this pandemic.
Thank you, Chris. I too hope this conversation will be helpful, especially for parents, teachers, and caregivers who are going to be wondering what they can do to keep themselves and their children safe. Safe physically, to be sure, but also safe emotionally and protected from all the stress and disruption they'll be experiencing. So physical and emotional safety are the two big subjects we're going to be talking about. But just as I say this to you, I'm aware that the cornerstone of safety for all of us are the important people in our lives. Yet the advice we're getting is to distance ourselves from people in order to be safe.
Yes.
So what I hope we do in this conversation is draw out how to address these two necessities that appear to be at odds with each other at the very same time. Physical safety, which requires physical distance, and emotional safety, which requires connection and understanding and empathy.
So for starters, I'm hoping you can help our audience understand some of the basics about this virus. Demystify it for us, if you will. What is coronavirus and how do people get it?
So the first thing to know about the coronavirus is that this particular strain is new. Humans never encountered this strain until a few months ago. So we don't have immunity or protective factors against it the way we do with other viruses that have been around for a long time. And we don't yet have a vaccine against it, and probably won't for at least a year. And we don't have medications to treat this virus yet. Likely, those are going to emerge in the next year or so. But for now, the most important thing we can do is to prevent ourselves and others from getting it. And if we do get it, to put ourselves under optimal conditions to recover from it and not give it to anyone else. Another important thing to know is the coronavirus is very contagious. So if a person with the virus coughs or sneezes, droplets containing the virus will travel, landing on surfaces where it can stay infectious for days, or infecting people nearby when it enters the body through the nose, the mouth, or the eyes. This is why there are so many recommendations now for reducing our contact with large numbers of people and for scrupulous personal hygiene.
So how does it make people sick? And are certain people more at risk than others?
When the virus enters the body, it attaches to the cells in our airways, infecting them. And then, like all viruses, it makes copies of itself, many, many copies. Those viruses then infect other cells nearby or end up in the droplets we release when we cough or sneeze. When the body realizes that it has the virus, it marshals the immune system to fight it. And one of the ways it does this is with a fever, which we are seeing in many people who have the coronavirus. But sometimes with this virus, the body's immune system has a severe reaction, and it can attack healthy cells, particularly the cells of the lungs. When this happens, the lungs can fill up with fluid, making it hard to breathe. And in the worst cases, this can cause an acute form of respiratory distress that can lead to death. Older people, people who have serious underlying health conditions, and people who smoke seem to get the most serious forms of the disease caused by the coronavirus, which is called COVID-19. Others have a...
Doctor, I'm just going to bring you back on live. That was a great primer on how to understand the medical aspects of this, but let's also talk now, and people can listen to the whole broadcast on turnaroundusa.org. Very important conversation with host Chris Ryback of the 180 podcast. So I hope they'll go in and listen, but let's talk a little bit about the mental aspects of this. And one of the things that I think a lot of parents felt at ease after the initial fears was it felt like maybe the youngest children are not as affected. Is that still holding true? And why would that be the case in this particular disease?
Yeah, it's turned out not to be true. Like many things that we heard only 2 weeks ago, a week ago, it is true that older people are more vulnerable to the disease, but just yesterday, I heard that it was detected in an infant that died of respiratory distress. And the statistic I am now hearing is that 40% of people who get into trouble with this disease are between the ages of about 30 and 45, which is definitely not what we heard before. 60% are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. But the distribution is starting to change. So I don't think that there's a reason for young people to feel that their only problem is being a carrier. That's what was said, when all those pictures surfaced of young people on spring break on the beaches in Florida. They're not just carriers. Young people can actually get the disease. They may get a more self-limited, mild version of it, but they can certainly get it.
And younger children are also, I mean, this is going to, we promise people positivity, but we also want to be realistic. The information is changing, right, in real time, and that's important also, that no one has the answers. Even our beloved Dr. Fauci, he doesn't know everything, and we're all trying to figure it out. Can you talk about that, the psychology of that, and how we're adding to how that's adding to the confusion?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I do want to tell you is that, I went to med school during the AIDS crisis, and Dr. Fauci was one of my teachers.
Oh, wow.
And he is an extraordinary human being. I mean, this was a time in New York when, if you were a young doctor and people were coming in with AIDS and we didn't know what it was, and you're a young doctor, you're told to go into the emergency room and go draw blood from this patient who is just beyond ill. And this was a time there was a disease, it was tremendously scary. And this person basically dedicated his life to understanding the mechanism of HIV. And with the understanding of the mechanism came the retroviral drugs. It's now a chronic disease. It's not a death sentence, a whole lot of preventive activity. So there is if you are going to listen to one voice, just listen to his voice, because there is absolutely no infection or pandemic or epidemic that he has not been part of unpacking and responding to. So that's my Tony Fauci story. The other side of what you're asking is this is a very challenging thing for parents, because it would be great if you could just say, well, we know about this virus, and here, parents of this 7-year-old or 10-year-old or 15-year-old, is how you should talk to your kids. But the fact is, we don't know everything. And that uncertainty creates a very significant challenge for parents, because the story of how children cope is the story of how parents cope. And the literature on this goes back to the First World War, when people were asking themselves, where does resilience come from? Why do some kids seem better able to surmount the challenge and stress of a war or another kind of life catastrophe? And the fact is that, as simple as it may seem, the single most powerful thing in a child's life is a relationship with someone they trust to protect them. We don't have anything that we can put in a bottle that is more powerful than that. And now we understand neurobiologically why that's true, because there actually is a hormonal system in the brain that marshals a hormone called oxytocin. And oxytocin is a hormone that produces feelings of love, trust, and safety. And that hormone gets released when children are in relationships that they trust. And when they have that trustful relationship, they have a way to biochemically, not just a nice thing to have, but biochemically protect themselves against the effects and the damage caused by the other important hormone associated with stress, which is the hormone cortisol. So this issue of adults understanding the role they play in enabling children to cope through the safety and trust of the relationship that they have with kids, there is nothing more powerful that exists that we know of today. And today we know the science behind it.
Thank you, Doctor. Jacqueline says, amazing and enlightening talk of this doctor gives us hope. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Please, everyone, we have about 20 minutes left if she'll give us that time to talk. So please post your questions and we'll surface them here for Dr. Pamela Cantor. You're listening to a conversation with the founder of turnaroundusa.org, Turnaround for Children, an organization founded in the shadow of 9/11 and trying to help kids recover from that. And now, more important than ever, what they're doing. Take a look at their website and please support them. You can donate and support them in other ways as well. One of the questions that came in here, Doctor, was that someone said, how relevant is messiness to this? The person said, I'm fairly clean, but my house is a mess. And I would think this is a good opportunity to clean up that mess because you may have more time on your hands. But let's hear your thoughts on that. And also maybe a little bit of the psychology of listening to the importance of washing your hands and things like that. You know, I discovered that 20 seconds is an eternity when it comes to washing your hand. So please talk us through the mental aspects of those issues.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about this also from the perspective of, imagine we're explaining the reason for hand washing to a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 18-year-old, because all of them have to do it. And it's a very crucially important thing. But let's talk about the messy house. Messy is different than clean. But today, because there are carriers of the virus everywhere, people do have to worry that in one way or another, if they go to a market, if they happen to live in New York, they have so many different ways that they can contract this virus. So the issue of sanitizing with chemicals that are capable, they all have to have alcohol in them in order to be capable of killing the virus. Soap and water is fine for food, but for surfaces, if you have people in your house that are going out in the world and coming back, the surfaces in your house have to be cleaned and cleaned and cleaned and cleaned in order to prevent the virus from getting into your house and into the people in your house. So this may be one of the times where messy and clean are not necessarily so different than each other, but clean is medically necessary right now. The other thing I want to tell the viewers is something called the behavior intention gap. And many of you will smile when you think about this, but the behavior intention gap is the fact that when we know that something is the right thing to do, we only do it 50% of the time. Think about that, okay? You are told that something is really important for you to do, and you've got the reason why. The behavior intention gap that's been studied is that humans will still only do it 50% of the time. That is not a good number today. Okay, because we cannot have only 50% of people washing their hands or cleaning their surfaces. We have to have a much higher number than that. So the issue that we have, especially as it relates to kids, is how do you get kids to do this? Okay, you don't scream at them all the time, okay? And you have to talk to them in age-appropriate ways. So very often, a lot of this and it means understanding that kids are really, really, really smart, and they need to know the reasons why they have to do something, and they need to be engaged in it. So with a young person, like a 7, 8-year-old, they might do it because they don't want to hurt somebody in their family. That might be the thing that gets them to wash their hands for that 20 seconds. But when you get to teenagers, you get to a different kind of problem, which is they know better. They definitely know better, and they know why this is not that important. With teenagers, one of the best things to do is to engage them in a solution. Give them the facts, and then tell them, if you were me, how would you solve this? Okay, because you got to do this for your well-being. So I think another important thing here is that this virus is asking us to do certain things that are non-negotiable. And 50% of the time, adults don't do that. So, and we are the people who are going to get our kids to do that. That is a big challenge.
Very big challenge. And Doug says that it's a super important point. People don't understand compliance in these situations. Peggy asked a good question. What's the best way to tell children about the virus and what's going on in the world right now? And I liked your idea that you shared about making it feel relevant to them, right? To keep your family safe. And it depends on the age group, right?
It does. I think that kids absolutely need to have the facts. But when you're going to talk to children about this virus and what's going on in the world, in order for you to be collected, and again, I don't know the you that I'm speaking to, but if it were me, I'd have to prepare to talk to my kids. I'd actually have to collect myself, think about the things that I really feel are most important for them to know, recognizing that the single most important thing for them to know is that this is going to end and they are going to be okay. And as our world, we are going to be okay. But what we have to do is prepare kids for the amount of time that could take. And right now, I know there's a huge difference from even just 2 weeks ago, where the schools that Turnaround works with, we're getting ready for a May 1st opening. There's no May 1st opening of schools in the Northeast. This is not going to happen. So as adults, we're adjusting to this new reality, but we have to give kids the tools to be able to understand enough about the fact that these kinds of illnesses have happened, normalize it by talking about flus and other infections that they may know about. They need to know that they are self-limited, but also will be limited with treatment, and that they can be prevented. And that the most important thing we can do as a family is prevent anyone in the house from getting it. And here's how.
Thank you, Doc. We have so many questions and comments coming in. And Rose says that there's a big challenge with a 19-year-old college student. The toughest thing is because they think they're invincible. Again and again, it's only become clear to him as things have worsened. And that, you know, doesn't this also tied into the issue of health insurance, right? Young adults don't sign up for health insurance even when it's, you know, relatively cheap because they think they don't need it. And that's all tied into the entire debate around healthcare in this country.
Yes, absolutely. But I think if there is a silver lining in what's going on now, I think all of us are getting introduced to the fact that some of the risks of this, in fact, were anticipated and not listened to. So think about the intention behavior gap that I was talking about before. And, you know, everywhere you look, there are adults that weren't quite ready to accept the reality of this. I think that for me, having worked with Tony Fauci from the minute that he began to speak, I knew that basically he was just giving us the script. and the crystal ball, the way of looking at the future. But now we're catching up a bit. There are many reasons we were late, but we have to catch up.
And we have to move forward, right?
Yes.
We have only a few minutes left with Dr.
And I have time for one more.
Okay, thank you. Healthcare professionals battling the pandemic are also working under highly stressful and often dangerous conditions. What other challenges do they face, and how can others best support them and their families? So maybe we'll start with that as the last question, and then I'll give you a moment for some final thoughts on dealing with these and the kind of the various mental challenges. And Mark, by the way, says, great guest. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think that there is, I think about the healthcare workers literally every day, many times a day, because I look at those pictures. I do remember back to when I was an intern and what it felt like to be on the front lines, wanting to do everything that I possibly could for the patients that were in my care. And I was young enough back then that I probably didn't fully appreciate the risks around me. So there are a few things that I would say. If we have a group of people in our organization right now that are cooking for healthcare workers, we have a lot of cooking people in our organization. And Kate Felson, who introduced me to you, Sree, is leading this. And I would urge you to get the name of what she's doing. But
may I share that? I'm just going to pull that up for just a second since you mentioned it. And it's called feedthefrontlinesnyc.org. Feedthefrontlinesnyc. Everyone, please go to that site. This is a restaurant, a wonderful restaurant group in New York called Tarlucci Vino and others. They are getting money so that they can feed healthcare workers right now. The restaurants have had to lay off so many people, but this is a way to support the restaurant and support the healthcare workers. So once again, we're just going to give you the address. It's Feed the Frontlines NYC. feedthefrontlinesnyc.org. Everyone, just pull out your phone and take a picture of this, or if you're on your phone, take a screenshot. And thank you so much to Dr. Cantor for mentioning this. We had Kate and her daughter Isabella talking about this on my show, Helping Main Street, earlier this week, and you can go into the archives on YouTube and find it there, watch it, and get other tips. But please go ahead, Doctor. And
I was just going to build on the word feed. Mm-hmm. Feed is a word that when you broaden it out, it's about nurture. And right now, there are our young people and our children who we've been talking about who need to be nurtured now in order to put them on the path to developing resilience and strengthening their coping and adapting to just an enormous disruption in their lives. But the other people who need to be nurtured are the people who are fighting this for us. And there are different ways to nurture them. If you happen to be married to them, there is love and the hormone oxytocin. If they are part of your family, figure out a way to make their life easier. Take their kids, do some of the learning at home, take some of the other pressures off so that they can go to work each day and perform the incredibly vital and courageous function that they're performing.
Thank you, Doctor. A final thought before you leave us here tonight?
What I love about your community is that it is global, and if there ever were a moment to remind us of our connections to one another and the ways in which this kind of sharing strengthens and can strengthen each of us, I really applaud you for creating a community like this, introducing me to them, and hoping that things that I've said will help them both find strength and share it. Thank you.
Absolutely. I know you've helped so many people tonight, and they can listen to the archives and watch it again. Please follow her. You can see her Twitter handle on screen, at Dr. Pamela Cantor. At Turnaround is the organization she founded, one of the important nonprofits in this space, and the website is turnaroundusa.org. Doctor, I'd ask you to leave us one last time with a positive message for us as we think going forward to help us get ready for this grueling week that so many of us will have.
I think the thing that I would tell you is that, and I'm speaking about this as a neuroscience person, and that is that we are wired to surmount challenges. Every one of us has the wiring for that. It was built into us, which is why our race and our human species survives and adapts to profound kinds of change. That's what evolution is. So we have that wiring, but we do have to nurture it. Okay, we can stress it or we can nurture it. And if we have that choice and we do nurture it, then the wiring's going to work the way it was built to work, and it will enable us to be resilient to this.
Thank you. Willie, who is not sleeping in Pakistan right now, says, thank you so much, Pamela, inspired by this discussion. Thanks, Sree. We'll sleep for a big bit now. Thank you, Dr. Pamela Cantor. Thank you. We're going to continue the conversation, but thank you very much. Good night, and we wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, and you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Folks, that was amazing, wasn't it? And she is awesome. Her name is Dr. Pamela Cantor. If you're watching, you caught just the end of this, no problem. As soon as we're done, the entire replay will start on whatever platform you're in. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We had a lovely comment on LinkedIn from Ratan Bharadwaj watching from NDTV in India. He says, hi folks, stay strong, stay safe. Ratan, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And we appreciate anyone who's tweeting or sharing this comment, these sessions. I'm on air every day to try and bring people together and to hear your thoughts as we do it. And you can see the hashtag we're using, Sree COVID-19 call. And please share, please tag your friends. And tomorrow, on Monday, we try to focus on economic hardship, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation. So please tune in then. And the reason I'm doing these, and I get these incredible comments about how this is uplifting, how this is a lifeline, and I say that this is a lifeline for me. If you know me at all in real life, you know I love meeting people. I love spending time with folks, and this is hard on me to deal with this at the moment, and I'm trying to adjust. And it really helps for me to have all of you here once a day. We have an hour together. I love my family and my dog. I think you can see her sleeping on the couch in the distance there. That's Tara. You can follow her on Instagram. She's the.tara, the.tara on Twitter. On Instagram. And she's right there. We love the family, but they're the only people we're seeing. And by the way, Tara is doing her part. We used to take her out for 3 walks a day, 4 walks a day. And now we're down to 2, and she's managing somehow to stick with it. And she is so wonderful and so important. And I wanted to ask Dr. Pam Cantor about pets. And when she saw the pet, when we started, she said, oh, that's wonderful, and we'll talk about it. I didn't get a chance to ask. And Kalpana says she'll check out the archives for all the things she's missed. Thank you, Kalpana. And you can tag your friends. And I hope you will all subscribe to my YouTube channel. I was someone who used YouTube every day, but didn't use the channel, didn't use it as a producer of content. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do this year or these months, is to work on my YouTube. So I have about 500 followers there, nothing compared to my other channels, but it doesn't matter how many people I have. But I would love more of you to subscribe on YouTube. The channel is Sreenet, Sreenet, which is also my Instagram and my Facebook. Twitter is @Sree. If you connect with me there, then when I go live, you'll get an alert and you can see all the archives. And I would love your feedback. I would love your thoughts on how we can do more of this, what guests, because I need guests every week, every day, I'm sorry. So if you have guest suggestions, please let us know. We'd love to have you if maybe it should be you who should be on the show, or you know someone whose insights, whose thoughts could help all of us get through this moment in time. I'll stick around for a few minutes and see some of your wonderful questions that are coming in, and I really appreciate the time you're giving us and the time that you're spending with me. Let's see, Jeanette says, I appreciated listening to this outstanding content and will rewatch and listen from the beginning. Thank you very much, so kind. Arlene says, Tara deserves a promotion. Yes, she does. And look how we're punishing her by giving her fewer walks. Tom says, check his feeds on Instagram.com/TomVell, VELL. And by the way, he's talking to my parents who are live watching this in Kerala, India. I'm so sad not to be with them at this time and these difficult days. And Tom says that he's fine. 2 nurses, Tangam and Teresa in Portland and Tanya in Brooklyn. And so his family is talking about his the women in his life. And I'm cooking for over 200 families 3 days a week. And there's the URL that he's given, and you can take a picture of that and share it and take a look. He's out in California, and so you have to, if you have friends there, he's cooking in Northern California. He's an amazing Indian chef, and please do share as much as you can with your friends. And Paula says, we love Tara, which is great. And Jeanette said she appreciated Dr. Cantor's thoughts and expertise and my big heart of connection and support. Thank you. Sree, how often do you wash your hands at home? Not often enough. Every time we step out, we wash our hands. Every time we do anything else, we wash our hands, but not often enough. Also, you know, a big problem, touching my face. And I need to do that less because that's clearly one of the things that we shouldn't be doing. Before we go, I want to show you a couple of things that you might think about in terms of your own use of technology and everything else we're talking about. And I also talk every day on this show about the importance of trying something, working on something in the middle of this crisis. All of us have more time on our hands if we're not a healthcare worker on the front lines. We have time because we have shorter commutes, or we're not working as long hours, whatever it is. Please work on something, learn a new skill. You want to do a podcast and haven't had a chance to do it. You know, those are all things that you can do. Doug says I should get one of those dog collars to keep me from touching my hands. But I'm going to show you live a tool that can train you to not touch your hands as much. And my mom says I'm doing a great job. Thank you. Love you, Amma. I miss you. And I look forward to talking to you in a little bit. I will call you. And the real question here is for all of us as we're thinking about this is how do we make sure that we are making productive use of this time? And so, as I was saying, if you're working on a podcast, you have something you want to do, this is the time to do it, because people are going to be more forgiving than ever about something new you're trying, and your bumbling first steps are going to be not just welcome, but not just tolerated, but welcome, as people see that this stuff is hard and we're all learning to do it together. And that's sort of the key to everything that we're talking about. So let me show you a couple of things that I've been working on as I try to learn how to use some of these tools. So I set myself a couple of things that I wanted to work on, and I'm going to show you one of them right here, so that you can give me feedback and we can kind of talk about it as an example of how this technology stuff works. So let me share on the screen here. I'm going to share my screen so you can take a look. And one of the things that I wanted to work on was a tool called Canva. Many of you know it. It's an amazing graphics and desktop publishing, if you remember that old phrase, product, but it's all online and it's not downloaded on your computer. So I said I'm going to work on that as one of the skills I want to build during this time. So I'm playing with that, and I created here, you can see this is what it looks like. It says templates and stuff. And so I created this particular graphic here. I'm just going to zoom in on that so you can see it a little better. Sorry. You can see it there on the side of the screen. And I'm going to take this off here, and maybe I will just pull it up on the screen. It might be easier for you to see if I remove all this branding also that I was learning how to do. And so I made this graphic. So let me just go into the page here and see if I can show you what that really looks like and how I was able to make it. Canva is something I recommend everybody try so that you can learn what it does and what a great tool that is. And so you can see it a little more clearly there. And I wanted to see if I could make one of these online graphics, infographics that are so popular. So I did this morning. I did it in a rush. But by my showing it to you now, by the way, if you have an iPhone, you can use the QR code by just kind of zooming in on the QR code on your iPhone. You should be able to pick that up, and right up at the top of the screen, it takes you into an archive of all my sessions right there on YouTube. So partly also a chance to learn how to use QR codes better, because QR codes aren't something that a lot of Americans use. People in Asia love QR codes, but Americans are still kind of learning how to use them. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it. This is also a way for me to kind of highlight what we're doing, kind of promotional material. And you can see there the first 16 shows, about 200,000 viewers, 38 fabulous guests, 8 physicians from 4 countries and 15 cities, 6 authors, 6 CEOs. And it says where we're live, where our archives at, encourages you to connect on YouTube and subscribe, and also says, do you have speaker suggestions? Do you want to be a sponsor? We'd love to have sponsors so that I'm not trying to do all this in the background and sometimes making a hash of this. It's much better if I could get my wonderful team that does the New York Times read along to help, but I don't want to ask people to do stuff that if they don't have time, I don't want to ask them. And so this also gives you a chance, if you're listening and you want to help out in some way, helping find guests, helping do some production, or you just want to learn, you want to live tweet the way Rose Horowitz 31 and Vandana_Menon are doing. We'd love that. And we'd love to have you participate in this. There's so many projects that you can help with. There's so many volunteer projects. It doesn't have to be mine that you help, but there are so many. And Jeanette says, that's a great visual, love the global emphasis. And Jay says, I'd love suggestions on how best to use Zoom. There are concise 1-minute videos on the Zoom site. Are they good resources on learning how to run meetings on Zoom, share resources, run breakout rooms? There must be other good sources, but I'm happy, Jay, to maybe get on a call one of these days, a Zoom call, and kind of play around with it together. Or we can do a tech session of this and go into Zoom and check that out. People are posting various their Twitter handles. I think that's great. Jasbir Bhatia says, long-term facilities really have a lot of positive nurse friends who are working there and sick and still working as they are so short of help. It's really, really sad. Jay says, absolutely the time to learn a new skill and to think through what will the skills and businesses needed 6, 12, 18 months from now. I cannot emphasize that enough. Jay is a professional career coach, and he's suggesting that. And Jay, you and I are going to talk about working with our friends who are career coaches about doing something on this show so that we can help more and more people as we do this. So I'm so grateful to you for being part of our community. Jeanette says this is a great time to work on those put-off projects or work on your goals and visions. Such great advice and great things for all of us to think about. Joe says, what's the best video chat to help me teach my Sunday school class? Video chat, I think Zoom is really popular, and Zoom is offering all kinds of deals for educational purposes. So make sure you're not stuck in one of those 40-minute time limit videos, because there's no warning when it just cuts out, as it did with a client the other day. So I've upgraded my Zoom so I can also work on my Zoom skills. But we can all learn together from this. Andrew Revkin is watching. Andrew, my wonderful guest from a lifetime ago, is actually only about 10 days ago. And he says, thanks, Sree, for fostering sustained connectivity. We had our second Sunday morning Unbroken Circle song swap connecting Zambia, Texas, the Catskills, Finland, Afghanistan. So please go into j.mp/COVID19 from a distance. So maybe we'll go to that if people are interested. If you'll stick with me for a few minutes, let's go in and check that. I'll need to bounce back and forth to get the exact address, but just give me a minute, folks. Please hit share right now so you can tap some friends who would benefit from listening to us and watching this. So we are going to, let's see, COVID-19 from a distance, I think is the URL. I will come back in and look at it. I'm actually on a different tab right now. And I found it, so that's great. So I'm going to be able to show you that in just a second here. And this is the project that was done by Andrew Revkin and others. So I'm going to play that for you, and we'll take a look and enjoy this great creativity that Andrew and friends. I hope Andrew's watching now so that he can comment as he's doing that. So I'm just going to go in here, and I'm going to share the screen. I'm using this tool called StreamYard to do this, folks. And there we are, the unbroken chain, it says here. Let me pull that up. You can see it. So I'm going to turn up the volume and play it, and let's see what happens, okay? And so I'm going to subscribe to his YouTube channel, and I hope you will all subscribe to mine. SreeNet is my YouTube channel. So here we go. I'm going to unmute this and play and make the screen bigger, and let's play.
Still with us, but on this particular platform, we can only have 6 people at a time in the video part.
So just go ahead and let's see the music.
Where I live, because people don't have.
They were talking. Let's see if we can get to the music.
Very fine line between a loss and a gain. Very fine line between pleasure and pain. Most of your life is spent walking that very fine line. The people you think are a genius are this far from bent. President blows an election by 0.5%. We all know love hurts, but we try it again and again. We know the line between love and despair is so thin. It's a very fine line that you got to walk. Gotta watch everything, make small talk. Gotta watch every step, or you find yourself crazy and crying. Most of your life is spent walking a very fine line. It's a very fine line that you got to walk. Gotta watch every word when you make small talk. Gotta watch every step or you find yourself crazy and crying. Most of your life is spent walking a very fine line. A very fine line. Life's a very fine line.
Folks, you get the sense of that. So I hope you will follow Andrew Revkin, who is amazing. He's on Twitter @Revkin, and maybe for a Sunday session like this, you'll folks who have some musical talent will join me. And I have no musical talent, but I'd love to host you and play some music, and we could have some fun. These daily shows are meant to be as helpful and useful as possible, and we'd love to get more folks participating and sharing their comments. And this is your show, folks. Think about ways in which we can use it and promote all the things that we want to do. So I promised you something fun, which is to learn how to not touch your face, because this is a major problem for me. So watch what I'm about to do. I'm going to go onto a website called, it's called donot-touchyourface.com. So I'm going to pull that up first so you can see it. And this is going to give you a great demo of how this works. So donot-touchyourface.com. Just watch me do it first, and then you can see. When you go into the site, you can see there is what I look like inside Do Not Touch Your Face. So what this is AI that teaches you not to touch your face. And I know there are privacy concerns that I will address in a moment, but watch this first, okay? So you go in here, and first take a video of you not touching your face. So 3, 2, 1, do not touch your face while the camera is running, so it knows what your face looks like without touching your face. Okay, now take a video of you continuously touching your face with clean hands. Okay, ready. That's it. That's all you do. And then if you leave this on, what it will do is, as you're going about your day and as you touch your face, it will say
No.
no.
No. No. No.
So put my hands down.
No.
You see that? That's pretty funny, pretty interesting, pretty scary. And the first question comes is, so wait, so you have to leave this camera on and it's training you all day and it's watching you all day? The folks who make it promise that it's only on your on your desktop. This doesn't work on your phone. It only works on your desktop. And it's telling you you touched your face. So every time you do that, if you try it a couple of times, look at that. It's telling you do not touch your face, and it makes that. Angela says LOL. That's funny, right? So here we go. I'm touching my face, and it's telling me. It also sends me an alert. You should get a small electric shock too, says Tom Velleringot. It's donouttouchyourface.com. Easy to remember. And Geeta says LOL. So you guys are having fun at my expense, but that's okay. Peggy says LOL as well, but it shows you how hard it is. And by the way, when you're hosting, you want to like look serious and pay attention and show shock when you have to. And these are things that do it. But anyways, donouttouchyourface.com. And sometimes it gets confused. So you're seeing AI at work, machine learning at work. It's learning, and they promise that they are not stealing your information or watching your face. FAQ, how does this work? And then it says, do you keep my information? Nope. The entire site runs locally. All the calculations from your webcam and alerts are done on your computer, are never sent off the internet. And the way to test that is to turn off your internet. I can't do that now because we're all together, but turn off your internet and test it and see if it still does the work when you have turned off the internet, unplugged from the Wi-Fi. So you could do that. You could work by testing it like that. And look at Jonathan. He says, I'll just stick to sitting on my hands. Neeraj says it's cool. Mark says hilarious. Could see this as a disaster during my podcast. And Neeraj says it'd be cool if you could program your own sound. And humor is something we need. And I'm actually planning a humor discussion in the days ahead. And if you know somebody who's a comedian who could help us laugh through this, let's bring him or her on and let's have some fun through this, because if we don't laugh, we'll be crying all the time. And there is a moment for crying, and then there's also a moment for laughing. And so this is our positivity episode, folks. And I'm so grateful to all of you for being with us and for helping me get through this very difficult time. We're on day 17 of the podcast, of this session. It's not a podcast. I don't know what to call it, but we are so grateful to all of you for being here, for being part of the team, for sharing your comments. And we have, my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to it and please share. And we'd love to get some sponsors if we can, so we can do a better production of this, higher quality. I'm doing all of this stuff while talking, and that's why it feels a little bit of a circus. But I'm so grateful today to Pamela Cantor, MD, a great leading child psychiatrist, for being with us, for sharing her thoughts and helping so many of us by giving us concrete, actionable information. If you joined us at the end, go on back and watch the entire thing. As soon as I hang up, you will be able to watch the entire replay. Monday is our conversation around economic hardship, and Sunday nights are positivity. Economic hardships are a really big problem. I'm going to contact my friend Doug to make sure we are talking with him about how to communicate during this crisis. He's a wonderful book about it. He's being very shy. I hope he will type it in there and share it. Jody says, I'm doing a good job, but no, you guys are doing a good job by giving me love and support in this very difficult time for so many people. We are complaining, I'll just give you an example. As someone who makes part of my living from speaking engagements, I've lost so many of them just through June. And I know I'm not going to get a paid in-person speaking engagement for maybe the rest of the year. It's that worrisome out there. But it's nothing compared to what the world is going through. So I want to help you folks. I want to be there for all of you as you are there for me. And I really appreciate it. I wore my Feel Happy shirt from Bombay Shirt Company. And Tom is posting lots of things, including masks for #MaskForAll and Wear a Mask USA. And Doug has posted pandemic musical parodies are a thing now from NPR, which is pretty cool. So I appreciate that. Folks, you have my email address right on the screen. If I can help you with anything, please let me know. If you can help us or you want to help people with anything, let me know. If you know a job opening and want to get the word out, let me know about that as well. And also, I urge you all to join my closed Facebook group where we gather and I learn so much every day. It's called Sree's Advanced Social. You can just search for it right now on Facebook and join. It's a great community of digital, social, and mobile experts sharing tips and ideas. I learn so much there every day. It's a wonderful community, not because of me, but because who's there. And you can take a picture of it right now if you want to. There's a URL if you want to get to it. But otherwise, just search for Sree's Advanced Social and you'll be able to join that group too. So unless there's a comment or a question coming in, I think we are done. Doug says, thank you for the plug, Sree. The website you can find on douglevy.com and working on an update already. It's a book about communicating during coronavirus, which is pretty amazing. Jay says, your social media weekend was an engaging success. Can you present virtually where you were planning to present? I would if the organizations would have their sessions. And this is my plea to anyone who is thinking of canceling their conference. Reach out to me. I can help you. Me and my team, we can help you, even if it's just a brainstorm, but we can also help you take any conference in the world and turn it into a virtual success. We did that with my social media weekend because of the amazing team there, and we can do this for you. So do contact me. Be happy to help you and share what I've learned, because we're all learning in this together. And just so many comments coming in. I'm still dealing with them on all the different platforms. I am grateful to everybody who's here. It's great to have you here. Please share your comments. Please email me. Please be in touch and do a thing I did today. I called some friends who I haven't talked to in a long time. Just called them, didn't make an appointment, didn't text them first, just called them and said, how are you? We had the best conversation. And I'm so grateful to them for just picking up, answering the phone. Because nowadays with the phone rings, cold calling, you're like, who is that? Is that something that's somebody trying to sell me something? And the answer is not always is the answer. So thank you very much, everybody. So grateful to all of you for being here, for being part of this conversation, for supporting us. Thank you to Dr. Pamela Cantor. Please follow them online. They're very easy to find. Turnaroundusa.org. You can donate. If you found this useful, please donate to them. They're doing things to help the most underprivileged amongst us. And very important that they're doing it. And we salute them and we salute her for spending her time with us. So that's it for another COVID-19 call. I'll see you tomorrow. And you can look up the archives on youtube.com/SreeNet, as well as each of the other platforms. Please do subscribe. Thanks very much, everybody. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay home unless you're working. If you're working, thank you for the work you're doing. It means so much to all of us that you're taking care of us. Thank you. That's all I can say. And Geeta says, thank you. You started your day with us on the New York Times read along. So happy that you were there. And now today, you end the night with me as we're talking positivity. And if you haven't found it yet, go on my YouTube and watch today's New York Times read along with two young men, 13 and 15-year-olds, who are doing amazing things on their podcast, and they're an inspiration for all of us. And we also had Dr. Sujana Chandrasekhar with us answering your questions. So you can find all of that on my Facebook, my Twitter, and my YouTube channel, also my LinkedIn. So connect with me on all those platforms. Email me. Thank you, saying goodbye.